Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And let's get into today's episode. We're getting actually better on the podcast, so let's get right into it. Now, on today's episode, I have this question that I actually talked to somebody about this, and I was like, you know what? That's actually a very good question for the podcast. And the question is like, are you in prison in your mind? Now, you might ask, how is this relevant to the podcast or anything like that? And it is very important, especially if you're going through something or if you're going through whatever you're going through, especially with what's going on right now because of the pandemic. Like, there's a lot of things going on in your life, and I know this because it has happened to me where I was imprisoned in my mind for literally, I will say, most of my life, or if not all of my life, which it was hard to understand it when I started like working on myself and things like that, and that's why I want to talk about it. Now, the reason why this is important is because sometimes we don't believe that the biggest prison that we have is in our mind, because we all been there where your own thoughts tell you, oh, you're a loser, you deserve this, or there's so many things that happen. Like in my case, it was more like, you're a loser, you'll never be something, nobody will love you, nobody will care for you, why have you been doing this? You know, like there might be things like that might happen in your life, or it might happen throughout your day where you all of a sudden you hear all these thoughts and you're doing something, and all of a sudden you decide to stop because of your thoughts. Like, you decide to go for a run and you start running. This actually has happened to me where I start running and then I'm like, why am I even doing this? I'm not gonna lose any weight. So I stop. And that's literally basically being imprisoned in your mind, because you believe what's going on in your mind, what your mind is telling you, what your thoughts are telling you. Because it's literally the little voice in our heads. And like I said, we all have been there, or we still there trying to get out. And let me tell you why it's hard to get out, and it's actually very important to understand if you're imprisoned by your thoughts, in this case in your mind, or you're imprisoned by your mind overall. Because one of the things that I realized is that when you're imprisoned in your mind, sometimes it's not even your fault. There's nothing that you can do about it. It could be from your childhood, like in my case, when and I know I have talked about this, and I'm at peace with it. That's why I can talk about it. But like, for example, like when my uncle said like, hey, I'm gonna take you to Disneyland if you get good grades on first, when I was in first grade, and I did. I got good grades. I got an A-, and what did he do? He's like, oh, you didn't do good enough. Well, what did I do? Like, literally put a thought in my mind that was telling me every time that I was trying to do something, like, or I was like working on something, it's like, you're not good enough. Why don't you stop? What you're not gonna be able to finish. Why don't you stop? And that's why I have always started things and never finished. I've done it with relationships. I've done it with friendships. I've done it throughout my entire life. I've done it in video games. I've done it with school. I've done it with school. I've done it with so many things where I start something. I've done it with my own body where I start working out and then I stop because it's like, what's the point? I know that this might be happening to you, especially if you're a Spoonie, when you have something else going on your body. In this case, it could be pain, it could be a disability, it could be whatever you're going through. Like those type of things are gonna put those thoughts in your mind, and it's gonna imprison you. The other thing about this is that sometimes we're actually gonna be imprisoned in our minds by other people's opinions. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that when you let the opinions of others dictate your reality, or the feelings toward yourself, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this person is right. I'm dumb, or I'm ugly, or I'm this, I'm that, and I'm whatever that person is telling you. Maybe they're your best friend and they're just saying it as a joke. Maybe they're your family, like in my case, and they're just saying it as a joke, but You might not feel like it. You might laugh on the outside, but on the inside you might be crying. That's the thing. And when you feel like that you're not gonna express it. You're not gonna express it at the moment, like, hey, that hurt me, or hey, that's me. You're gonna be like, hey. Am I wrong? You know I'm right. You know I'm right because I've done it where somebody says something to me and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's funny. But in the inside, I feel like, oh my gosh, that person might be right. Or actually, that person is right, even though they're not. So that's going to actually imprison you in your mind because now you have to prove that person wrong, even though they might be wrong all along. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to, or you want to try to impress that person and be like, see, you were wrong. But if that person was wrong overall or since the beginning about talking to you in that way, then there's nothing for you to prove. It's about what you believe. And that's one of the things that's going to help you break free of that prison of your mind, like believing yourself. That's the thing. You have to believe in yourself because when you have those thoughts that were probably implanted from childhood or throughout your life by somebody, or even by your own self, like when you're a Spoonie, you're facing, let's say, like with my wife, fibromyalgia or things like that, or cancer or whatever. Sometimes you might feel like, oh, I deserve this because I'm a bad person, or I'll never be the same person because of whatever reason. You know, like, and you always want to go back to the way that things were before you were diagnosed, or before you feel like something happened that made you feel a certain way about yourself. So that's what's going to imprison you because you keep thinking about the past. You keep thinking about the past. The past is not going to come back. The past is the past. The past will stay in the past. What you have to realize is that what you have to do right now is that you have to focus on the now so you can live a better future. When you decide to do that, and that's pretty much what I had to do, and like I said, I was able to break free out of my mind, or from the prison of my mind, not out of my mind. I was able to break free out of the prison of my mind because I went to therapy, and the therapy that I got, the therapist that I had was great. So it helped me. And because of what I learned from myself in therapy, I see it on other people, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I could do something. That's why I decided to do the podcast. And but anyway, let's go back to the topic. I go on this tangent sometimes. So anyway, when you're in prison in your mind, it's gonna be the hardest thing to get out of because you are creating those thoughts. Literally, those thoughts are created by yourself. And because you're creating them, or you created them because of what somebody said, or what you saw, or what happened to you, then you're gonna believe in them. You're gonna believe them as true, but they're not true. And I'm gonna touch a very touchy subject. This actually happens, and I know this because I know a lot of people that have been abused, like myself. I actually happened with me, like with abuse. Or when you're in an abusive relationship and your partner tells you like, oh, without me you won't be anything, or without me you're gonna be this or this, you have those type of partners that try to literally break you emotionally. That's pretty much what they do. Like they start building these walls in your mind so you can't get out, and you start to believe whatever bullshit they tell you. And that's pretty much what my mom said about me, my uncle said about me. I know, like I said, I have friends that have the same problem right now because their partners are telling them, oh, you won't be anything without me, or shit like that. Like, unfortunately, it happens a lot nowadays where there's a lot of domestic violence, and it's gonna continue to rise, unfortunately, if we don't work on ourselves. And this is pretty much for everybody, men and women, okay? But when you're in prison in your mind, you have to understand that you can break free. It's the hardest thing. It's one of the, I always say this, it's hard, and yes, it is. And the reason why I say it's hard because, and that it can be done, is because that's what I'm doing right now. Like, me doing this, it's breaking out my on my comfort zone, like stepping out of my comfort zone, breaking out of the prison of my mind, because I'm able to talk about my own issues, you know. But I see it in other people. Like, for example, I'm gonna give you this example. One of the people that, well, one of the persons that I listen to is the motivational speaker Eric Thomas. Thomas. He was literally homeless, broke as hell. Like, he was homeless, broke, like he had nothing to his name. And one day he decided to change his life. He decided to go back to school. He was a high school dropout, and he says it all the time in his stories. Like, I was a high school dropout. I decided to go get a GED. The GED gave me the opportunity to go to college. Gain my college degree, gave me the opportunity to go into the university. Then one degree led to another, and he ended up with an actual PhD because he wanted to. But how did he do that? He had to break free, and that's why I pretty much had to fucking do with myself. I know that you might say like, oh, but that story is different than mine. The story might be different, but whatever happened to him, me or you or whoever is listening to this might be the same. Might have so many similarities where we're thinking that we're a certain way because of whatever happened to us. It can happen because of our circumstances. It can happen because, so like I said, somebody said something, somebody did something, you know, like there's so many things. But in the end, we all get imprisoned in our minds. And to break free of that, we have to start believing in ourselves. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. When you believe in yourself, and you start doing little things. Don't go from 0 to 100 right away. You have to go from 0 to 1 or 0 to 5, whatever you find okay, depending on what you can do. Because you have to learn new things to get out of to be able to break free out of your mind, or from the prison of your mind. That's what I'm trying to say. So what you have to do is that you have to believe in yourself. I say this because that's what I had to do with myself. Like I said, if you look at the first episode of this podcast, I didn't make sense. I knew I didn't make sense. From most of the episodes, I knew that I didn't make sense because I was just like rambling around. But I was like, you know what? I need to learn how to talk. I need to learn how to speak. And that's pretty much a fucking skill that I had to acquire. So if I can do it, if I can acquire a skill, you can do it too. And one of the things that I'm going to be very honest with you is, like, in my case at least, I feel like I had to go back to school. I literally, because I realized, and you have to be humble when you want to break free out of your mind, of the prison of your mind. You have to be extremely humble. You have to be very open-minded, because I had to realize that I didn't know how to read, in English at least. I didn't know how to speak in English. So I had to relearn, because at the same time, and this is important, that's one of the things that is going to imprison you in your mind as well, is that you believe what others tell you. Like, oh, they tell you you're good, like in my case, they were always saying like, oh, your English is so good, like blah, 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 blah. And then I married a white woman. My wife is white. She's native to the States, like native in the way that, you know, like she is native to the language, the English language. I'm not. So when I was trying to talk to her, she was like, I don't know what you're trying to say. And I will get mad. But then I was like, how come you can't understand me? It's like, because it doesn't make sense. That's what she said. And I'm like, gosh, you don't understand my English? And she's like, no, it's very broken. And I'm like, nobody ever said that to me before. I'm like, those fuckers lied to me. I was like, those fuckers lied to me. So I had to really, literally learn again how to speak, how to talk. And one of the things that I realized too is that I started to forget a lot of my Spanish, and I didn't really know English. And one of the things that I love is to talk. And you will see it more and more now that I'm becoming more proficient, I guess. Like, that's the word, more proficient in talking. You will see it, like I'm getting more and more confident as well. But one of the things I realized is that I didn't I started to forget my Spanish and I didn't really know English. And I'm like, fuck, at one point I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody. So I had to put aside literally Spanish. Like I still understand it and I still can speak it, but I had to learn one language at a time. And this situation is English. And then I will relearn Spanish. I will get like Rosetta Stone or whatever is available at the time. And I will relearn it. That's not a problem. But it's like, you know what? I have to understand the language of the place that I'm at, because in order for me to communicate and expand my view, I guess, I had to learn. And that's one of the things that you're going to have to do. You might have to learn new things in order for you to break free from the prison of your mind, which is hard, because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to try. You're going to be like, you're going to stop yourself every time. But like I said, you have to start believing in yourself, because it is the most important thing. And you might ask, like, okay, how did you actually do it, Jordan? Tell me. And I'm like, oh yes, let me tell you, because some of the things that I have tried or that have helped me, I already talked about in the podcast. Like in this situation, try to learn something new, but always believe in yourself. And you always have to understand that you might fail. But here's one thing that, at least in my mind, this is how it works. I might not work for you the same way. Is like when you fail, or at least the way that I see it, failure doesn't happen unless you quit. Because if you keep going, if you keep learning, you're not going to fail. You're just going to learn a way that it didn't work for you. Until you find the way that it works for you, then keep going. If you decide to literally say, like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm done, then that's quitting, that's failure. Because that's when you actually feel bad, because it's like, gosh, I never tried anything else before. Or then later in life, you might see something that could work for you, and you're like, why didn't I try that? Like, that should work for me. But you were so close, but we quit. You know, like that's the real failure in life, by quitting. If you never give up, you never quit, then you never fail. You just keep trying and you readjust. You adjust and reassess what you need to do. That's one of the things that I always do. Now, another thing that actually helped me is forgive. Because when you forgive, literally the person that hurt you, the person that you're thinking about, that is like, oh, that person was right, that person would say I was dumb, or that person said this about me, or this person did this about to me, then you don't have to think about it anymore. You're like, you know what, and this is how I put it. I'm like, you know what, motherfucker, you did this to me, yes, but I know that you didn't do it because of me. You did it because of how you felt about yourself. You just projected your pain. You just projected whatever shit is going on in your mind, you projected it onto me, and that's also forgiveness. Once you do that, literally the walls of the prison in your mind, they're gonna start falling. They're gonna start falling. Like if you've been heartbroken, it's like I treated you like king or queen and you hurt me. It's not because of how I was treating you, it's because of how you felt about yourself. Like you were insecure about the relationship, so it's not about me, it's about you. So I'm gonna let that shit go. That's how you forgive. The other thing is meditation. Meditation has helped me, and I know it's hard for people to meditate, because I know that a lot of people will say like, oh, I fall asleep when I meditate, and that's completely fine. Because one of the things, and this is what Jay Shetty says in regards to meditation, if you fall asleep, that's just telling you your mind needs to rest. Because when you meditate, literally, you put your body, your mind, you literally can hear your own thoughts. Or sometimes, depending on how deep you get into the meditation, all those thoughts, all those voices in your head literally stop, and you just feel like, that's what has happened to me multiple times, where I literally fall asleep meditating. There was this time where I fall asleep, I was meditating, and usually the meditation that I do is like 20 minutes. You can get so many meditations on YouTube, and there's apps for that, where I was like, gosh, it feels so long. Like I was literally meditating, and I'm like, gosh, this meditation feels so long, and I just keep going, and then I open my eyes, and it's like almost an hour later, and I'm like, gosh, I fell asleep, but I could still hear it. It was weird, but anyway, like, so I fell asleep, and if you fall asleep, don't feel bad about it. That's what I'm trying to say. The other thing is exercise. And I know that a lot of people can't exercise because you can't go to the gym due to whatever's going on right now. But you can walk around your complex. You can walk around your house. Do as much as exercise as you can. You don't have to push yourself, especially if you're a Spoonie. If you have some kind of chronic illness or chronic pain, obviously don't push yourself. Know your limits. Now, like I also talk about, let go of the past. Pretty much is forgiveness. Move on from the past. The past is the past. You cannot keep living in the past if you want to live a better a present. No, wait. You cannot live in the past because it's not going to let you have the present that you need so you can create the future that you want. That's what I wanted to say. And then be mindful of your words. Be mindful of what you eat because, like I have said before, food sometimes can create anxiety and actually can hurt your body depending on what you eat, depending on your body as well. So be mindful of what you eat. Be mindful of what you say to yourself. Like I used to talk down to myself. Now I don't do it. Instead of saying like, you know what, I mess up something and I'm like, I didn't know. Now I know. I learned something new. Now I know what to do. You know, that's pretty much how I do it. You can do it in a completely different way. That's up to you. Now stop feeling guilty of things that happen. Like you have to let go of that guilt too, because that's one of the things that's going to imprison you as well. Like feeling guilty of something that you did. You have to understand like it's not. You have to understand why you did. And probably sometimes it wasn't your fault. It was you did because of how you were feeling at the moment. But if you're able to work if you're able to work through those feelings, then it's gonna help you stop feeling guilty about yourself. You know, for whatever you did, whatever happened. Like you have to understand. Like sometimes things happen, you learn, and then you can move on, okay? Now, another thing that is important, this is one thing that I do a lot, is smile and laugh. And this is proven, the proof is right there with doctors and science and everything. You can look it up. But if you smile, just that fucking smile, and I've done this, if you feel sad one time or you feel like depressed or anything like that, if you smile, or you see something funny, like right now with the internet, you can watch funny videos. I like to watch AFV on Facebook all the fucking time. My wife is always telling me, like, why you laughing? I'm like, oh, because I'm watching funny videos online. And the reason why that helps is because it releases the happy hormones in your brain, the serotonin, the oxytocin, all these things in your brain that will make you feel better, you know. And even if you smile, even if you don't laugh or you don't watching something, if you smile, it's actually going to change the chemistry in your brain. And like I said, I'm not talking just out of my butt. This is actually something that I have tried, because when I first heard it, I was like, that's bullshit. And it's not bullshit. I've done it. Now, like I said, watch a funny film, which is funny, actually. There's so many things right now going on, like with people being on lockdown or not being able to work there. They have a lot of time on their hands, and they're creating so much content, which sometimes is really, really funny. Now, you can watch anything pretty much. Now, stop pleasing people. You have to stop pleasing people. That's one of the things that it was so fucking hard for me, because I was raised to be a people pleaser. But you have to stop with that shit. Why? Because when you stop, you will never be able to please everybody. And when you're not able to please everybody, what's going to happen? You're going to feel bad about yourself, because you're going to be like, oh, I can't please this person because of whatever reason. So you have to understand that. Stop pleasing people. You're not here in this planet or in this world, or you're not doing what you're doing to please everybody. You're doing it for yourself, and sometimes even for your family, you know, or to help others. That's what's actually going to help you. Now, the last thing that helped me is just do it. Whatever idea you have, whatever you want to learn, whatever you want to do, if it's good for you and you don't feel any obviously it has to be ethical and moral. And it has to have good morals and good ethics. Like in my case, the podcast. Nobody ever thought that I would do something like this, because I've been able to talk about myself. I've been able to open up more, like things like that. So that's pretty much what will happen, or what you need to do in order to break free out of your mind. I really wanted to do this episode. Thank you for your time. This is pretty much what I wanted to talk about today, and I just want to let you know that thanks to you guys, thanks to the listeners, the followers, the supporters, we're growing. Thank you for that. So don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't forget to share as well. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends about it. If you know somebody that might be able to learn something, or has it's a Spoonie or a caregiver, that's the reason why I'm creating this. It's for you guys. And thank you. I cannot appreciate you enough. It's like, I really appreciate it for giving me the time to literally do this, and sometimes just ramble. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful for that. So, and one of the things I wanted to talk to you real quick is that there's changes coming. There's big changes coming to the podcast, and I'm really excited. I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but I'm just giving you a warning. Is like, the change is coming. So thank you for that. Thank you for your feedback, your support. I love hearing from you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as well, and on the emails. And if you want to share your story, don't forget to send it to me at thecaregiverandspoony@gmail.com. You can do it anonymously. And as always, I'll leave you with this. As always, take care of yourself. Have a great day.